Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Twin City Trio podcast here on YouTube. My name is Cale Fleming. Alongside me, as always, my two hosts, Gavin Campbell and Tyson Snyder. Tyson, what's going on, my man?
What's up?
Hey, Gavin, how's it hanging?
It's hanging.
That's what I like to hear. So on today's rundown, we're going to talk a little bit about our wide variety of topics. We're going to talk about Illinois football and their continued woes, as well as some NFL. And then moving on down to high school football at some point. We have also Illini basketball as well as the NBA. It's a couple basketball topics, a couple football topics. Real quick, I want to kick the show off with this. Congrats to Shohei Ohtani on winning Rookie of the Year. Two Angels now, active Angels, have now won it, including Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani. So congrats to him.
I feel like I didn't hear Ohtani's name as much as I should have this year.
He's on the DL a lot. So
he also played for the Angels, so that didn't help him.
That does not help at all when he played for the Los Angeles Angels. And then, too, he had that elbow injury that he does need Tommy John for, so he did not pitch near as much as he should have. But he still swung the bat, so that's impressive. But we're going to move on here into Illinois at the Nebraska Cornhuskers with a final score of Illinois 35, Nebraska 54. I personally do not have anything to say about this game other than
it's a yikes from me.
Wow. We're going to come off of that win against Minnesota here at home, and we're going to go into Lincoln and just roll over. Doesn't make quite much sense to me. Bowl games are now out of the question, obviously. Even if they were in the question, that's
technically no. You have to get to 6 wins for a bowl appearance, for a spot at a bowl appearance. And we have 2 games remaining, and we're at 4 wins. So technically, no, but it's not likely.
Our last two games,
Iowa and Northwestern. Which Iowa's the only ranked team left in the Big Ten West, and Northwestern is the winner of the Big Ten West. So that's, double yikes.
Well, what stuck out to me the most was we still put up 35, so I don't think the offense slowed down at all, other than A.J. Bush throwing 2 interceptions and only had a 44% completion rating, but that's besides the point. The Illinois defense allowed over 600 yards of total offense. That is abysmal, and one of the most atrocious things I've had to endure this entire season. I'm disgusted. I really wish that we could find somebody competent. I don't care if we have to pull them off the street to put in that secondary, but the fact that Nebraska not only ran the ball for over 240 yards, they also threw for over 350, which is mind-boggling to me. Another thing is that 6 Nebraska players averaged 4 yards or more per carry on 30 combined attempts. If we could just sit back and take that in for a second, 6 different players. That's unbelievable. I already talked about A.J. Bush, so I'm not going to get into that. He is what he is at this point. I still wish M.J. Rivers would get some time before he takes over the starting role next year. And I think the one thing that we can take away from this is that Illinois' run game is still great, whether it's Reggie Corbin or Rayvon Bonner, even A.J. Bush. We saw he had 25 carries yesterday for well over 100 yards. I don't have the
187 yards.
187 yards right there. So almost 200. The one thing that I can still say about A.J. Bush is that he carried the ball 25 times. He threw the ball 25 times. Is he a running back or is he a quarterback? I just have a big question mark next to his name right now.
Is he a ball hog? Yes.
Well, yes. I think we all know that at this point. But one thing that I need to say is, where are our defensive players? We need defensive players. Lovie Smith, please get us somebody to put on the defensive end of the ball so that we can just hold opponents to less than 50 points a game. That's all I want right now.
You're talking about the secondary. You're preaching about it, and I'm going to say this coming off of that. Next season, we have Marquez Beeson coming in that secondary.
Thank God.
Next season, hopefully, that secondary will improve with his addition. I mean, honestly, that's the only thing we can hope for at this point.
Well, yeah, that's what we can hope for, is to shut down the opposing team's best wide receiver. But then what happens if they have a good number 2 guy, a slot guy, a tight end? What do we do?
That's the question.
We need safeties. We need more corners. We need some linebackers. We need everything in God to help this team. I mean, let's be honest. I don't understand, because the offense is there. I mean, you would think if you score 35 points, it wouldn't be a blowout.
I would be hesitant to say that the offense is there too.
The offense isn't regressing anymore.
I understand that, but we still have a weak offensive line, and we still don't have a wide receiver core.
And think about that. Think about that. We don't have wide receivers besides Smalling, who I don't think is a number 1, but he's still a good receiver. And then we have a terrible offensive line. Okay, I won't say terrible, but they're not great.
It's not great.
And we're still running the ball for over 200 yards a game. We've done it for 3 weeks in a row.
That is coming from the pure power and determination of our backs in Bonner and Corbin.
And that's what I'm trying to say is they're that good. If they would just get some help, we could win these games.
I'm agreeing with you 100% on that. We have the backs. We just don't have – that's it. That's the only upside that Illinois football has right now.
Well, and the backs are good enough that I don't think the offense is the problem. They're not good by any means, but they're not the problem. They're not regressing. They're not getting worse like they were the last couple weeks. The last 2 weeks, they've been getting better and better. They're actually progressing. They're still not good, but they're getting there.
All the while, this is without Epstein.
Yeah, and the defense is continually progressing. They haven't got better since week 1. They have continued to regress. So the offense really isn't the problem. The defense needs a lot of work. If the offense can put up 35 points, I will be more than happy. If we lose after they put up 35 points, so be it. But the offense at this point isn't the problem.
No, I would say the defense's best game this year, and this is going to sound crazy, but I think when we played USF, I think that's the best the defense has looked the entire year.
Absolutely.
And that's mind-boggling, meaning that was week 3. Week 3 of the season, and they still haven't gotten better. All right, we can move on because I know that's just making everybody upset.
Back to Penn State as well, other than the fourth quarter.
The first three quarters. Yeah,
the Penn State game were remarkable.
Before that 35-point fourth quarter. Yikes.
Yep.
Which we're going to move past right now.
So hopefully next season, Lovey's going to be able to turn this around. Thad Ward, Corey Patterson, I've got faith in them. I don't know if I have faith in Lovey Smith anymore.
We got 4 wins.
I get that. I understand it. I got to see some improvement next season.
Next year's make or break. That's it. That's it.
I agree with that. Next year's make or break for Lovey Smith.
I think it's bowl appearance or he's done.
Yeah, 6 wins or you're out. And I hate to say that because I love him to death.
I just want to see him be competitive. I'm tired of Illinois' athletics in general not being competitive. But let's move on to some little more, I don't know, upbeat topics. Both of us, all 3 of us in this room had a good NFL weekend.
A great weekend.
I don't think the 3 of us in this room combined have had a good weekend all season. So that being said, we're going to kick it off with the Chicago Bears. Gavin, I watched the entire game. Mitch shutting the doubters up, including myself. He's on pace right now to crush almost every Bears quarterback record to date. He ended up on Sunday he was 23 for 30. 23 for 30. 355 total yards. That is his career high. 3 touchdowns, but one of them was rushing. So he still had the 3 touchdowns. I like it. Threw 2 in the air. Jordan Howard, on the other hand, and Tyreek Cohen, where were they at, in my opinion?
Well, I think that was a combination of the Lions' rush defense. They were top 12 going into Sunday. And I think that's just a testament to their front 4. I think they're underrated, especially with their team now being 3-6. They're kind of similar to the Buffalo Bills defense. They're really good. Offense just isn't there. I mean, Matt Stafford's really the only thing after shipping out Golden Tate. I think Kenny Galladay is okay, but other than that, their offense isn't looking too good. When it comes to those 2 guys, they only got to combine, I think, 17 carries. Yep. So, I mean, you can't really say that they did poorly because they didn't even get 20 carries combined. I think if one of them could have broke off something, they would have gotten the ball a couple more times. But there's a reason they didn't get the ball a couple more times, and that was because of Allen Robinson and Anthony Miller. Trubisky was finding them all day long. Combined, they had 255 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, that's phenomenal. Allen Robinson hasn't had a good week since, I think, week 3 or 4 of the season. So especially after coming back after the 2 weeks of injury with Khalil Mack, which we'll get to later. Man, that was just awesome to see. I'm really disappointed in myself because I had him on my fantasy team and I forgot to put him in. But
you had both of them.
Yeah, I sure did.
You still whooped me.
I sure did. I should have put up at least 160, but I goofed. One thing I want to touch on real quick though with the Bears was the defense is still there. It's phenomenal. They've now
attack.
Yeah, they have now moved in to the top 3 and top 4 in defensive efficiency rating in the NFL. They also lead the NFL in takeaways, points off takeaways. They're second place in sacks, and they're also 4th overall in point differential at 96.
Who's first in sacks?
I don't know.
Is it the Rams?
I don't believe it's Los Angeles. No,
so.
I can't remember. It was some team that you wouldn't think it would be. If you want to stat check that real quick. But yeah, I think the two key things here is they're number 1 in takeaways by a pretty decent margin, and they're also first in points off takeaways by a long shot. The second in sacks is just an added bonus, especially since Mack has been out 2.5 games. I thought that was really impressive. Their next game, I think, is really going to speak to how good this team is and how good they can be next Sunday when they host the Vikings on Sunday Night Football. But other than that, I thought this was a great team win. This was an excellent performance. Although I know there is something that you want to get to about our kicker, Cody Parkey. Had a shaky day to say the least, but let's go ahead and
shaky.
Let's go ahead and hear your thoughts.
Cody Parkey's got to go. I mean, he's got to get out of Chicago. I'll buy him personally a one-way ticket out, whether have first-class coach, whatever he wants. That dude doinked 4 off the uprights.
Well, I think he just had a bad day because I actually brought some statistics to support the Bears keeping Cody Parkey, and he's actually a really, really good kicker. So if
You're going to have to really impress me.
So
Mason Crosby missed 5 a couple weeks ago. You think it was time for Green Bay to ditch Mason Crosby? Because he had a bad
Gold.
week? Oh, well, agreed. They should have never got rid of him.
Well, yeah, the fact
that's
that
besides the
fact that the McCaskies got rid of Robbie Gould in the first place still pisses me off to this day because he's a Bear forever in my heart. But let me go ahead and get back to Cody here. Mr. Parkey, the Chicago Bears kicker, made 97% of all of his extra point attempts before Sunday's game when they hosted Detroit. If that doesn't change your mind, he also made 94% of all kicks inside the 40-yard line prior to Sunday, and he has made 86% of all kicks attempted from any yard line in any game prior to Sunday in his 4.5-year career. I would say that's not bad. And just to throw a cherry on top, he's also attempted 9 kicks from 50-plus yards in his entire career, and he's made 7 of them.
Okay, I like those stats a lot, but at the same time, kicking is one of those things where it's mental paralysis by analysis. So he's going to come in next week saying, oh, shoot, man, I doinked 4 off of the uprights in one game. So he's either going to have to do one of 2 things. He's either going to have to just drill one. Nagy's going to have to put him out there and drill one of these longer kicks, or he's going to have to, I don't know what he's got to do, but he's got to figure it out, man. And we're the division leaders, right?
Yeah, we're 6-3.
I'm wanting a playoff push this season, correct? I want to, in my opinion, and if it comes down to the playoffs, where it's got to be Cody Parkey going out there to make or break the Bears, the game, whoever they're playing, that specific night, after seeing that performance on Sunday, I'm starting to see some flaws in that extra point team, honestly.
Listen, I can see where you're coming from.
There could have been a combination of bad holds, bad snaps. It could have been anything. You know, because any little fraction of an inch on the hold can mess the kicker up. I get that. So it could have been a combination of things.
Right, and another thing that I want to throw in there is that this is his first time playing in a city where the weather is really the biggest element, because he played in Miami and it's hot, but I don't think that really affected his kicking and, you know, his percentages and the way that he went through his motion. But that wind coming off Lake Michigan into Soldier Field, I mean, it's right there.
The wind chill's going to knock it down another 20 degrees.
That as well. So I think that it could just be an adjustment period for him. Let's not forget that he's only played 8 games with the Bears this season.
I understand that, but I want to bounce one more stat off of you since you bounced a bunch off of me. I read this on, I believe, Twitter or Fox Sports' Twitter the other day. It was Monday, actually. That stated, Cody Parkey does not travel to Soldier Field during the week to practice because of time constraints and travel issues. What? You think Robbie Gould's doing that?
Well, with what is what I would ask.
Travel. The issue was traffic.
What?
To Soldier Field.
Wake up earlier.
Call a cab so you ain't got to drive. I don't know. That bugs me.
This is the only rebuttal I have to that is kickers and punters and place kickers, they're all a bunch of weird dudes. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, agreed.
They're different. I get that.
They are.
Does he really need to go to practice? I mean,
No.
it kind of baffles me that he
After
doesn't,
doinking
but does
4
he
off
really
the
need
uprights?
to? What's he supposed to do at practice that he can't do at home?
I bet he's got a
Okay,
couple
that's-
kicking nets in the backyard. I mean,
kicking nets to me, I'm not a kicker. Never have been, never will be. But kicking nets to me seem like they're completely different than what it is actually kicking in the stadium, whether it's full or empty. You know, actually getting back yardage. What to me, I don't know. That's just something that just doesn't sit well with me. You're an NFL kicker, and you're not going to make an hour and a half commute in Chicago like every other normal ass citizen that's got to go to work that day. Seriously, think about that for a second.
Well, think about this. He makes millions of dollars to kick a football.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know. Does he really care? He's there to do a job. Let's listen. If I'm the team, I want my kicker to be happy because let's be honest. When your kicker's happy, your team's happy.
If I was Matt Nagy, I'd be pissed. I wouldn't see Vinatieri out there doing something like that.
You're comparing Cody Parkey to one of the greatest, if not the greatest, place kicker of all time. I don't really think that's appropriate.
If you got to have some drive, some compassion to be the great man, to be the GOAT.
I'm just going to go back and say that he's made 86% of all attempts in 4.5 years.
And I'm not disagreeing with you.
That's pretty decent.
I'm just seeing what I saw on Sunday, and I'm probably taking it to an extreme.
Well, and that's before Sunday. So let's keep in mind that even with that, if you made 97% of all extra point attempts, it probably went down to 95%.
Which
that's
is
still great.
Insane.
Right.
I know that. I get it. I'm not disagreeing with you. I just have some thoughts in the back of my head that I don't necessarily like. But let's move on to the next game. The Dallas Cowboys. Tyson, your Cowboys are taking on Philly. The Eagles did not fly. They actually flew right into the ground. Dallas ended up winning 27-20. Dak was 26 for 36 with 270 yards and 1 touchdown. He got sacked 4 times, though. I want your thoughts on that here in a second after I talk about Zeke. Ezekiel Elliott, 19 carries, 151 yards with 1 touchdown. That's what you've been preaching about all year. Shanahan gave him the ball, and he made it
Still
work.
didn't get to 20 carries.
Still didn't get to 20, but on 19 he had 151. But I want your thoughts on Dak real quick.
To be honest, I think the first couple weeks I blamed it on the offensive line. Since then, I'm going to say 90% of the sacks he's taken have been his fault. He's been getting 3-4 seconds of protection. They ask of offensive linemen, you give 2.5 seconds. That's all they're required to do. 2.5 good seconds of football. He's been getting almost 4 seconds on every play, and he's holding the ball way too long. And then his favorite is he's a right-handed quarterback, so he likes to do the huge boot out to his left and lose 12 more yards on the sack. So not only is it not a 7-yard sack, but now it's a 22-yard sack because he likes to roll away and think he can run. Because he's already waited 6 seconds when he only had 4.5 to throw it. So I think he's having some decision issues right now. I think a lot of it's still in his head. He had a rough start to the season. He's still not out of it, but he's getting there. But he's not confident in the play calling. He hasn't been confident in his receivers. But the sacks are getting lesser and not as bad. I think a lot of that has to do with signing Amari Cooper. He's getting a little bit more confident back in his receivers. We've seen Scott Linehan have a couple good games now, so he's getting a little bit more confidence in the play calling. But a lot of these sacks are his fault. I can't blame the offensive line anymore. If you just watch the games, he's got all day to throw, and he just doesn't throw it, and then instead of throwing it away, he tries to run or do something, and he's getting sacked for it.
For sure. So let's move on to Zeke here. So Zeke, obviously, you've been preaching about this all season. Give him the ball 20 times, he's going to do amazing things. And he did it. 151 yards on 19 carries. What do you got?
Well, that's the second time this season we've seen him have under 20 carries and over 150 yards. He had 180 a couple weeks ago on like 16 carries or something like that. So I've been saying this all year. I've been saying it the last year and when we drafted him. Give him the ball and good things happen. We see that again. Give him the ball, good things happen. He had 4 runs over 20 yards apiece. He had one run, went for 32, where he hurdled a guy and gave him a teabag on the way over. He said, "Here, hold this for me. I'm going to go that way." His fat little self fell over because he couldn't land it, but that's a different story.
He got roasted for that on Twitter too. He should have finished it. He should have finished it.
I still love the run. It was still great, but Zeke's just a beast. There's nothing else to say about it. And he's an incredible player to watch. So,
real quick, I wanted to say you guys did not see my show notes for today when you got here before we recorded, correct?
Correct.
I just want you guys to know that the top line on my notes for the Cowboys game was good things happen when Ezekiel Elliott gets the ball. So I think that's the main focal point of this game that we took away from it. What I want to do is flip over to the defensive side of things because let's not forget that the Philadelphia Eagles are the defending Super Bowl champions. And the Dallas Cowboys did a really good job containing Carson Wentz and the rest of that Philly offense, all of the weapons that he has. One guy I really want to talk about is the tackling Dutchman himself and Leighton Vander Esch. That guy had 13 solo tackles plus his first career interception last night. Also returned it for 26 yards, which was really impressive.
He ran 85 yards for that 26, too.
One thing I want to talk to you about, Tyson, is being a lifelong Cowboy fan. Sean Lee has always been the anchor on the defensive side of things. He's been dealing with injuries he's been dealing with them his whole career, but the past few years have been more significant than others. Is this Sean Lee's replacement, and can he potentially be better than Sean Lee in this linebacker position?
Well, this is absolutely Sean Lee's replacement. This is why they got him, because Sean Lee has had injury questions throughout his whole career, especially the last 3. This is absolutely who they drafted to replace him. Everyone thought it was Jalen Smith 2 years ago with that second-round pick, knowing he wouldn't even play for a year. But there's a reason they got him in the first round this year. 13 solo tackles. That's more tackles than people get in a game regularly with solos and assists combined. 13 solo tackles. He had an interception. We are seeing him read the field like a true middle linebacker like Sean Lee. And we've seen it this week against the Texans and against Jacksonville. Sean Lee's been out. And Leighton Vander Esch and Jalen Smith have led that defense, and they have absolutely shut those opponents down. They didn't win against the Texans, but they only let up 16 points. And they had 4 stops inside the 20. They destroyed Jacksonville. We saw that. They only let up 7 points. Once again, Leighton Vander Esch led the way in that one. And we saw it yesterday against the Eagles. He had 13 tackles, 13 solo tackles in a professional game against 6'4", 300-pound linemen. This is absolutely the guy that they needed to draft to replace Sean Lee. I've been saying it for a couple weeks now after the first game against the Texans. They play so well with Sean Lee on the sideline. That hurts me to say because I love Sean Lee and I think he's an outstanding player. But he gives those guys so much motivation and the know-how to do things. Sean Lee has a great mind. And I think he would do really amazing things to be on the coaching staff. Not saying he should retire or shouldn't get a couple more years, but when he does finally retire, when he decides to hang it up, I would love to see him come back and coach these young guys because he helps them achieve that potential.
One more thing I want to talk about is I was watching Undisputed with Shannon Sharp and Skip Bayless.
God, I don't know why you watch that.
It's for the entertainment purposes, really.
I can't even watch it for that.
One thing I wanted to take away from that and ask you is they compared Leighton Vander Esch's rookie season to that of Brian Urlacher, and I want to get your thoughts on that.
Very similar play styles. They're big physical guys. Brian Urlacher was known for hitting people. A lot like Ray Lewis. Just big physical guys. You want to hit him, good luck, because he's going to hit you first. So I think that's a fair comparison. My comparison would be to Luke Kuechly. Luke Kuechly, another young guy, outstanding, one of my favorite linebackers to watch. But I think he's a lot like Luke Kuechly. He's got incredible sideline-to-sideline speed. It's almost unmatched. You can't get away from him running side to side. The only way you're going to beat him is down the field. But he's all over. He's getting 13 tackles a game. He's getting 14 tackles this game. He's getting 10 tackles this game. He's always in double-digit tackles, which Brian Urlacher was an outstanding linebacker. We saw that. We saw him get inducted into the Hall of Fame. There's no question about that. But my comparison would be Luke Kuechly, but I like the comparison to Urlacher because he hits like a truck.
Before we move on, I found the sack leaders for this season, and this is
I had it, and you said we were moving on, so I got rid of it.
That's my bad. So Tyson, you had it first. I just want to touch him. That's my fault. I didn't hear you because I'm deaf. Tied for first is going to really surprise you. There's 4 teams tied for first with 31 sacks. It's Green Bay, Kansas City, Minnesota, and Pittsburgh, which drops Chicago down to the 5th place with 30.
Technically
31,
second,
30.
but 5th overall, yes.
Because all these guys are tied with 31.
Right, that's where I got the second place from. But
if we're going to go actual stats, then they're 5th.
Right.
But that will change when we play Minnesota because it's Khalil Mack, Leonard Floyd. They're going to have a heyday getting after Cousins.
They should. Well, at least, you would think.
I hope Cousin likes that.
Yeah, I hope he likes it a lot. Well, not just him. Let's not forget about Goldman and Hicks. I mean, anyone can get in there. Roquan Smith, everyone, Trevathan. It'll be great.
Pass protection is unmatched. Sorry.
And real quick, can I go back 1 second? Those 3 turnovers we had by 3 different Bears in the secondary. Adrian Amos with the fumble recovery, Bryce Callahan with an interception, and of course Prince himself, Amukamara with another pick. I just want to throw it out there. I just want to name those guys because, man, this defense is all over the place.
I'm really excited about this defense.
It was a good weekend for the NFL for us, wasn't it?
Yes, all three of us.
That was awesome.
All right, moving on, Tyson. You're going to take over now with some Illinois high school football if you're ready.
I sure can be. So we're moving into the quarterfinals this week.
Can I just say real quick before we start, can I say rest in peace to the Normal West Wildcats? Put up a hell of a fight against the number one seeded high school. Its name I can't remember right now, but I think they lost 22-17, so they put up a hell of a fight, but couldn't quite make it to semifinals, but good effort by them.
Let me find that game real quick so I can tell you who they played.
I just couldn't quite remember the name.
They played the number one seed in the Southern Division, Oaklawn Richards, who came into that game 11-0. They put up a heck of a fight, lost 22-17, so not bad. There was another surprise in that division, but I'll get back to it. I'm going to do a quick recap of kind of all the divisions because we didn't do any picks this last week, so we'll move on here. But going back to 1A, Lena Winslow beat Aurora Christian, who Aurora Christian knocked off the number one overall seed in the 1A bracket. So Lena Winslow moving on, not surprised. We talked about them a little bit earlier in the season. Very good team, playing Forston this upcoming week. One of the games for me that was a lot of fun to keep tabs on was Argenta playing Moweaqua. Moweaqua was one of those teams that played Tuscola early on. We said both of those teams are extremely good. But Moweaqua came out and got stomped by Argenta, 56-21. So Argenta moving on to Camp Point next week. Camp Point's 11-1 coming into that game. Argenta still undefeated, looking likely they're going to make a championship run here. So glad to see that out of one of the more local teams. Moving on to 2A, we know Gibson City out here. They absolutely shut down Sterling Newman. Only could muster up 12 points. So Gibson City moving on against Lanark. This one was kind of a surprise for me. On the bottom half of that top bracket, we had the number 2 and the number 3 seeds matching up, Orion and Lanark. And Lanark beat Orion, the 2 seed, 30-3, so it kind of gave them a smack. So I'm expecting a really good game out of two undefeated teams against GCMS and Lanark this upcoming week. That game is away from GCMS as well, so they do not have home field advantage. So that'll be interesting. On the bottom half of that bracket, we've got Decatur St. Teresa and Maroa Forsyth. So very possible we'll have a GCMS and a Maroa matchup again in the state championship. All four teams in the 2A division moving on. We've got a 1 and a 3 seed and a 1 and a 2 seed, all four undefeated. That doesn't happen very often. There was not many upsets in this bracket. I mean, there was, but when it came down to it, them top seeds really showed out. Especially Maroa this past weekend. Maroa beat Tuscola 63-28.
I couldn't believe that.
That's a very bad game from a really good defense out of Tuscola. It was hard for me to look at that and believe that, but yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Moving on to the 3A division, we know PBL got bounced a couple weeks ago, but Byron, the number 1 seed in this division, on the top half of the bracket, going up against number 15 seed Herscher. Herscher is upset after upset after upset the last 3 weeks, and they're going up against an undefeated Byron squad now. Herscher's had a couple close ones, but they have beat a 2 seed, they have beat a 10 seed, and they have beat a 6 seed in Monmouth.
Who was the 2 seed they beat?
They beat Chicago Dunbar. Was the 2 seed. So Herscher's looking scary. It'll be a contest for Byron, but Byron has let up a total of 21 points in all 3 weeks of the playoffs so far. They have not scored. Their lowest game they've scored is 28.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a yikes for me. I hope Herscher can win that. That would be awesome to see a 15 seed advance to the championship. But on the bottom half of the bracket, we've got the 1 and the 2 made it out like we thought. Monticello destroyed Greenville 63-21. Carlinville came out over Williamsville. Tough game. Another good defense out of Williamsville there. But
well, Carlinville's the one that beat PBL, right?
Yep,
so you like to
40-7.
see them move on as far as they can.
Mm-hmm. See, I'm a little backwards in that. If a team beats me, I turn into an automatic salty and I hate to see them win. I want them to lose instantly.
Really?
A lot of people are the other way, and they're like, oh, they beat us. If they win, that means something. But
That's the way I am.
Yeah.
I'm a salty.
We lost to the state champions means a little more to me, which I get where you're coming from.
Oh, yeah, no, you like to
That
see the
makes
guy that beats you lose immediately.
absolute sense.
But see, like you said, when we were in the state playoffs in the second round, we went up against Morris, who went on to be the state runner-up.
Yep.
So every time we go back and look to it, it's like, well, we lost to the state runner-up. What can you do?
That's our solace of getting trounced 63-7 when we lost to. I just blanked on their names.
Was it BCC?
No, we lost to. They played Monmouth in week 1 this year. We talked about them earlier.
Well, in the meantime, it was a pretty similar score when Urbana lost it, but I think the final score was 62-20, which was just a trouncing. It was really just our quarterback running around trying to make things happen, and that was it. But what can you do, right, when you got a bunch of 5-star recruits on the defensive end of things?
It was Wilmington we lost to. We got stomped,
right.
And then they ended up winning that year. But moving on up to 4A, Elmhurst and Richmond made it out of the north half of the bracket. Richmond has had a couple close games. They beat Coal City, then they beat the number 2 seed Coal City, who is in that same division as Wilmington and Williamsville and them. So a really good division there, but Richmond came out on top by 3. Elmhurst hasn't had a close game yet. They're defending 3A champions in the 4A bracket this year. On the bottom half of the bracket, we did have one upset. Rochester, the 4 seed, beat Taylorville, the undefeated 1 seed, by a lot. It was 64-26.
Wow.
Yeah, Rochester is a team that they weren't expected to win this year because there were so many good teams in the southern half, but they've won more championships than I can count. Very, very good team. But they'll be playing Kankakee McNamara, who beat Effingham. Only beat Effingham 42-35 out of a 10-seed Effingham, though. So a couple good matchups in the 4A bracket this year.
Bishop Max, always good.
Oh, yeah. Moving on to 5A. We saw Evergreen Park, the number 16 seed, the only 16-over-1 upset this year. Evergreen Park has stomped everyone on their way to this matchup where they played Lombard, and then they got destroyed 54-7. So Lombard's looking good. They'll be playing Sterling, who only mustered up 10 points this week against Rockford, but they won 10-7. So two very good defenses going at it. On the other half of that bracket, we got Country Club Hills, undefeated. They have not let up. They've let up 7 points total in the playoffs so far this year.
We're getting up north.
What do you do against that?
We're getting up north.
There's nothing you can do. Bring Vaseline. They'll be playing number 14 Joliet Catholic Academy. Joliet beat number 2 Highland this last weekend. They won 55-21. So that's a very low seed making it advancing. So I'm excited for that game, but going up against a very tough team like we talked about, 7 points total. That's not very many. Moving on to 6 seed, we're back up to Normal West here. Normal West unfortunately did lose to Oaklawn, but it was very close. Washington was the game I wanted to talk about. 11-0 Washington. We've been very high on them all year. Washington lost by 7 points to Crete Monet. 35-28. Crete's an 11 seed that's made it out. They've beat a number 3 seed now. They beat number 6 Bloomington. They're the team that trounced Bloomington early on in the playoffs. But that is a very impressive win. I'm very excited for that game, Crete playing Oaklawn, because Washington was my vote to win this year.
Well, if they took down Washington, if you're going to expect somebody to beat them, I mean, that is going to be a good game.
Crete Monet's put together solid teams the last 10, 20 years.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was surprised to see them as an 11 seed, but they had a rough start to the season. They have come on strong since then.
Second half of the year, they really picked it up.
But top half of the bracket, kind of at 1 seed Cary Grove. They made it out pretty easy again, beat the 4 seed Phillips. Niles Notre Dame made it out against Antioch, 6 seed beating a 2 seed, so another slight upset there. It was a close game, but 6A division I'm excited to watch. So moving on to 7, we had 8 LaGrange Park beat Chicago Simeon. I wasn't expecting this Simeon team to lose either. They're like the 8A 1 seed Chicago Brother Rice. Both teams very, very good. But LaGrange Park will be going up against Batavia, who I believe was the runner-up last year in this division. Batavia beat Villa Park 34-27. On the bottom half of the bracket, we've got Chicago Mount Carmel, who was the 7th seed. They beat East St. Louis. East St. Louis was the game we picked a couple weeks ago where they trounced Lombard. They lost by 10 to Mount Carmel. Mount Carmel will be playing St. Charles North, 22 seed. I can't believe a 22 seed's made it that far in this high of the brackets, but it should be a pretty good game. Moving on to the 8 seed, like I mentioned, Brother Rice will be playing Morris. Brother Rice has looked dominant. They won 20-0 against 8 seed
They're
Gurney.
going to win the state championship.
Yeah, it's looking very likely at this point. But whoever comes out of the bottom half of this bracket, we've got Lincoln Way East, the returning winners from last year at this bracket. They destroyed Edwardsville 50-14. Edwardsville is the team that beat up on Aurora last week, one of the games we picked because they're a little bit more local, but they'll be playing Wilmette, Loyola Academy, who beat Park Ridge 17-0. Wilmette, the 19 seed we talked about, I said this at the beginning of the playoffs. If there is an underdog team that has a chance to win it, it's Wilmette. They got runner-ups last year against Lincoln Way East. They'll be squaring off this week in a title rematch for a chance to get back to the state championship. So I'm excited for the 8A as well. Should be I'm going to go ahead and say it should be a good matchup between Brother Rice and whoever comes out of that bottom half, because I don't see Brother Rice losing.
Is Lincoln Way East in that bottom half too?
Yeah, Lincoln Way East is playing Loyola on the bottom half.
So, honestly, one of the state champions this year out of that 8A bracket is going to
automatically made it back to
right there.
Yep.
Well, they'll probably come away with the title. I mean,
That's one of them teams
yeah.
is the state champion. Whoever beats the other.
But that's all I got for playoffs. I know it's a lot, but it's been a couple episodes since we talked about it, so figured we'd do a little recap, catch up on it. But yeah, that's all I got.
Well, and we'll be looking forward to the matchups here at Memorial Stadium, correct, Cale?
Yep.
All right, so I think we're all going to that, right? So I think it's a Saturday afternoon,
Saturday morning.
Thanksgiving.
The 1 through 4A are Friday. I believe the games are 1, 3, 5, and 7. And the 5 through 8A games are Saturday.
Same time.
1, 3, 5, and 7.
I'm definitely going Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. All right, well, there we go. Well, and I believe the Brother Rice will, when they make it,
when they make it, they'll be there.
Would be the night game, correct? They do the 8A game last. All right, let's go ahead and move on to a different sport. Let's talk about some basketball, boys. I think what I'm going to it's on here first, but I think I'm going to save it for our next topic. I think we're going to start with the trade that happened over the weekend on Saturday. Jimmy Butler was finally traded, and I pretty much said that he would be traded before the end of the year and a lot sooner than I anticipated. But he was traded to the Philadelphia 76ers. He's headed back over to the East. Minnesota received Robert Covington, Dario Saric, Jared Bayless, and a 2022 second-round pick for Jimmy Butler and Justin Patton, who I believe is just a reserve player. But this is a very interesting trade. I know I sent you guys a message on Saturday when this happened. That Houston offer was still on the table for 4 first-round picks. I think it was Marquise Chris and Brandon Knight and 4 first-round picks. It was still on the table, and they didn't take that. Why?
Just to play devil's advocate, it's because they wanted to trade him to the East, so they didn't have to play him. But like you said, 4 first-round picks and 2 potential starters is worth playing him 4 times a year. Absolutely. But I can see wanting him to trade for the East, but I'm very, very surprised they settled for that low.
There's something else why Houston really needed him too now.
They're trying to get rid of Melo.
Melo's probably done through 10 games,
which is what we were going to get into. And,
I
tell you what, you brought it up. No, you're fine. No, let's go ahead and
both of these.
Let's go ahead and talk about Melo for a second before we come back to that. But yeah, Melo, he's reportedly going to be released from Houston in the upcoming days.
Through 10 games.
10 games, yeah.
10.
And this was a guy that they thought was actually going to come off the bench and be productive.
Yikes. Come off the bench, he says.
Hey,
Melo doesn't come off
He came off the bench for at least half the games this year, which was
10.
Impressive. So, but with those minutes off the bench, which he got 29 of, by the way, which is far too many. 29 minutes, you got 13 points, 5 rebounds, half an assist. Not a whole assist, a half.
In 29 minutes?
In 29 minutes, he shot 33%.
Wait, how do you get half an assist?
Per game.
Oh, okay.
That's he's confusing Tyson. He can't even get a full assist per game.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. But this is the most baffling thing to me. He's shooting 33% from the 3-point line.
That's not bad.
With a team that all they do is shoot threes. You'd think it'd come up a little bit.
Yeah.
A career 38% 3-point shooter. He's down 5% this year. He's also shooting 40% from the entire field, that's abysmal. That's just abysmal. I think league average right now is hovering around 47, 48%.
And he's up on the higher end normally.
Yeah, well, he's taking over 12 shots a game. and he's not even making 5.
I thought that was going to happen.
That's
he's
terrible.
He's going to come out here and he's going to brick every one of them.
That's terrible. But let's get back to the trade real quick. Yes, Houston wanted Jimmy Butler bad. Now that they don't have them, they released Melo. What are they going to do?
Houston?
Yeah.
Lose.
Well,
there's no
we
chance.
see
now.
that. They're
There's
5-7 right now.
There's no chance. They started out slow. James Harden against Indiana the other night, and Chris Paul finally showed up. It took how many games?
12?
12. Took 12 games for them
I
guys
think
to
their
show up.
biggest mistake was getting rid of Trevor Ariza.
That was the yeah.
Well, not just him. I also think letting Luka Mbamute go to the Clippers.
Mbamute,
Those two guys, I think you're absolutely right. The perimeter defense is not existent on this team,
Yep.
and it's a lot bigger factor than we anticipated.
Well, you know Harden ain't gonna play defense. Chris Paul's getting too old.
He'll break something if he
He
plays
just can't
defense.
keep up. Is the thing. I know he's only 33. I get that, but he compare him to a guy or put him up against like Donovan Mitchell or Victor Oladipo or Kyrie Irving. Man, he can't keep up. Honestly.
No, and you're right, but I mean he'll try. I mean Chris Paul's still a guy that's going to try.
And then he's going to tear something.
Yeah. But I want to get to the other side of things for the team that actually made the trade. Let's start with Philadelphia. They're getting Jimmy Butler, but they're giving up a guy who made an all-defensive team last year in Robert Covington. First team, I might add.
And he's a heck of a wing shooter, too.
Absolutely. And then they're also giving up Dario Saric, who was their clear fourth option on that team. So now J.J. Redick slides into the fourth option. You have Jimmy Butler, Joel Embiid, and Ben Simmons. What do you do?
I'm gonna throw this off your head. Sorry, go ahead. I'll throw this off.
No,
your head.
I just thought it was funny because we've been talking how Philly just needs shooting, and they trade one of their two guys that can shoot in Covington. I thought that was hilarious, but yeah,
Sarge
sorry,
can
go ahead.
shoot too. I mean,
Yeah,
he can shoot a little
they
bit.
traded I guess they traded two of two guys that could shoot basically.
So here's the thing I want to throw off of you. So we all know, and Tyson being a Bulls fan, I was a Bulls fan while Jimmy was in Chicago with D Rose and Captain Kirk and all them. But whatever, move on. After that, Jimmy Butler in the last 4 to 6 minutes of the game, he likes to play ISO Jimmy. He likes to take over, right? Okay, in Chicago, he had 2 or 3 guys that he could kick out to. Minnesota, he had somebody he could kick out to in Wiggins, right? Wiggins, I'm honestly, he's hit or miss, but he could at least somewhat maybe kick it out, and he's going to at least shoot it. Who's he got in Philly that's going to shoot it?
J.J. Redick.
Joel Embiid.
Yeah, that's about it.
So you got
your
guys.
7-footer
Ben
to
Simmons
shoot
is going to
threes.
stand there wide open because they don't got to guard him. Same with Fultz.
Hey, fun fact, Ben Simmons still hasn't made a three-pointer in,
Has Fultz
over
even
a
made
year.
a 3 yet?
Yes.
Okay, 1.
I don't know. Well, I don't know how many, but he's made more three-pointers than Ben Simmons has.
I don't get it, man. I understand. Good trade for Philly, kind of. Maybe you got Jimmy out of the deal.
They're still in third. Can they really go down from getting Jimmy Butler?
No.
Well, see, that's the question is how is his personality going to clash with Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, two guys that already headbutt now and then throughout
One
the
thing, like
season.
you said before we started, Joel Embiid does play defense, so he'll like that. Joel Embiid will give him 100% every night. I'm not going to argue that. Ben Simmons, that dude's going to get to the rim no matter what. So they got 2 guys now. They sacrifice the shooting from the outside, which is if you can't score 100 points in an NBA game now, you ain't going to have a prayer to win. But they got 2 guys in Jimmy and Ben Simmons who can effectively get to the rim each play. They just don't. They sacrificed all their shooting.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what it comes down to because I had here in my notes, Philly has their third star, but where's the shooting? Where's their bench? I mean, they gave it up because Covington was their sixth man essentially, and then you also had Sarge who started the majority of the games this season.
Covington started a lot too this season.
He did, but he ultimately, when you come off the bench more than you start, I have to call you a sixth man, unfortunately.
Right.
But he's a quality player that can start. You're right, but I can't even name guys off their bench other than T.J. McConnell, maybe Amir Johnson. They can't shoot.
No.
So
Amir Johnson's the only one I know.
right, and the fact that they got rid of Anderson already, he's gone, and then of course you got Bellinelli left for the Spurs, and now
That was
Ilyasova to the Bucks. I mean, they literally lost all of their shooting. Those guys that got them to the second round of the playoffs last year, they're gone.
Marco Bellinelli last season was a key factor in their playoff push.
Absolutely, probably the biggest piece. But I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and move on to Minnesota and what this means for them. I honestly think they won this trade, if I'm being honest.
Well, yeah, they did.
Because the turmoil is gone. They got back 2 guys that can shoot, and now their system can run fluently. I mean, I think Minnesota is actually going to be a lot. They might even be a playoff team now without Jimmy. As crazy as that sounds.
I agree.
We talked about this a couple weeks ago. They can't win without Jimmy. There was validity when he came out and said that in practice. They were 7-13 without him.
10-13.
10-13 without him. They have a hard time winning without him. How do you justify saying they might be better. I mean, yes, they got rid of the cancer that is Jimmy Butler. He was a cancer since he came back. There was nothing good that could be from him being there.
But I want to make that specific in that locker room.
In that locker room, absolutely. Just because of the tension that was there, all the emotions coming out. Agreed. That is good. But can they still win without him? I don't understand that.
I think their chances of winning increased because Jimmy Butler is not the one that made an all-defensive first team last year. That was Robert Covington. So I think they have a guy that they can put on the best perimeter player on the other team, and he can lock them down. Or at least slow them down. I think he is that good. Some people say he didn't deserve it, but let's say bare minimum, second team all defense. You have a great defender on your team now. I think Sarge is another guy that can stretch the floor alongside Karl Anthony Towns. I think Covington's a guy that can come in for Wiggins. I would honestly, I might even start Covington over Wiggins, but that's not going to happen because you're paying the guy $140 million.
I would play them both at the same time.
And you could.
Because you can have Wiggins. Wiggins needs to shoot. That's what he does. Whether I agree with you, yes and no, I'm half 50-50. He needs to shoot because he can shoot. You can't deny that. He can shoot when he wants to. Mm-hmm. So therefore, Wiggins needs to be in to shoot. Covington needs to be in to play defense at the same time.
Andrew Wiggins,
that make sense?
Yes, but Andrew Wiggins. Let me tell you this. Let me bounce this off you. Andrew Wiggins reminds me a lot of J.R. Smith in his prime.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
That's exactly what he reminds me of. Because he's really hot and he's really cold. He can dunk. He can really do it all. But he's not worth $140 million.
Is Cat right now even worth how much he got paid?
On the offensive end, absolutely. On the defensive end, no, not whatsoever.
I mean, what's he? He's still shooting 82% from the stripe this season.
Yeah, which is good. I'm just talking about defensively. I mean, yes, he's averaging at least a block a game, but his on-ball defense is atrocious for a 7-footer.
We all know he ain't gonna play defense anyway.
Right.
He made that pretty clear to Jimmy Butler that he ain't playing defense.
I tell you what, this is going to be the most interesting thing is to see how far Philadelphia rises in the defensive efficiency mark this season. Just by acquiring Jimmy Butler, he's leading the league in steals right now and steals per game. So that.
What do you think Boston's doing right now with this acquisition? Do you think they're?
I don't think they're sweating it.
You don't think they're sweating it at
no,
all?
I think Boston, Toronto, even Indiana. I don't think they're sweating this at all because they know they don't have a bench.
That's true.
All three of those teams have a bench.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to come down to. Here's the thing: if the starters can keep it close when the bench comes in, they're going to go up by 10, 15 points. It's not going to matter.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, that's what it comes down to. But I tell you what, I thought that this was a really intriguing trade for both teams. I think that both teams, the way they look at it, I feel like they both won. And I feel like if you ask the casual NBA fan, you could say, well, yeah, Philly probably won. And then you ask someone that looks at the numbers, and you'd be like, well, Minnesota won. I think both teams came away with what they wanted.
One thing I will say, the last thing I'm going to say about this before you got anything else, is that Philly has finally put all their chips in the middle.
Oh, yeah.
They went out and got it.
This is all
the
in.
player they need.
Yeah.
And this is it. This is the final push they have.
Yeah, if they don't make it to at least the Eastern Conference Finals, this was a failure.
It looks like their process, they can't trust it anymore.
The process is over.
If this fails, your process didn't really pay out for you.
At the start of this season, I sat down with my father and said, this is the process. This is it. This is over. Now that they have Jimmy, all chips in, there's no more process. It's now.
Absolutely. So I'll tell you what, let's stay in the East. Let's move on to my team, the Toronto Raptors. They have the league's best record as of I believe today's the 13th of November.
Yep.
They're 12-2. They just took a loss last night to the New Orleans Pelicans. AD had a 20-20 game. It just can't be stopped. Not even Kawhi Leonard could slow that guy down. I tell you what, the brow is something else.
Which New Orleans, who started the year 4-0, 5-0, is now 7-6.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting too.
It is, but they've also played the Golden State Warriors and I believe the Bucks as well. Yeah, so they've played both of them and they lost to both of them. Which are two of the best three teams in the league right now, I believe. By the way, fun fact, Milwaukee is top 5 in offense and defense in the league, so that's something, and I think we should take that for what it is. Probably a topic for a different day, but, man, watch out for Milwaukee. And they also took down Golden State last week as well. But Kyle Lowry, this is a guy, he's a 3-time All-Star in the East. He's leading the league in assists by over 2 per game with 11. That's more than Chris Paul. That's more than all of the other elite point guards. That's more than Rondo. That's more than Drew Holiday. Whoever gets a lot of assists per game, Kyrie, John Wall, whatever. He's 2 more than the next leading guy. I thought that was a very impressive stat. Also, the Raptors are one of 2 teams in the NBA to be top 10 in offensive and defensive efficiency, the only other one being Milwaukee. And yes, I checked, Golden State is 16th in defensive efficiency as of right now.
Golden State ain't got to play defense when you can score 150 a game.
Right. I'm just saying, isn't that crazy? You would think Golden State would be at least top 10, and they're 16th. 16th in the league right now.
Golden State's got a lot of problems going on in that locker room.
Yeah, they do, and I think we need to address that because I know you were talking about it. We saw the conflict at the end of regulation between Draymond Green and Kevin Durant. Why was Draymond Green dribbling the ball down the court with 6 seconds left?
Durant's got full validity in this argument. He wins this.
I don't understand.
There's no rhyme or reason why Draymond's dribbling the ball out.
And this is a guy that had 6 points, 10 rebounds, and 2 assists in like 34 minutes.
And then Draymond does what Draymond does. He turned it over.
Well, yeah, he turned it over, and then he goes to the bench and wants to blame Durant for it.
Yeah, I know. I don't know, man. I don't know. And then this whole conflict arose in the locker room because Durant called him out on his BS. I mean, you can't blame Durant. Give the ball to Durant.
You can't blame him for it, but I think my favorite response was the article that just came out a few moments ago that Draymond called out Kevin Durant on his upcoming free agency and said, "You won't do it." I think that's the funniest thing that's come of all this. We're only 12 games in the season.
There's been a lot of conflict this season. It's been amazing.
It's really interesting to me because do you think that later on they'll be able to put all this aside, or will it just keep building?
I don't think they're going to be able to put it all aside. Seriously, I really don't think that. It's just going to keep growing and growing and growing until somebody ends up leaving or getting cut.
Could you imagine this team if DeMarcus Cousins comes back with all these superstars and they don't even make it to the NBA Finals?
It's possible too this season that they don't make it.
Is it though? I mean, they're 11-3, sitting on top of the West.
I understand that, but here's the thing: is we've seen what
and they're 11-3, and Steph's been out for like 5 games now.
Three games.
3 games.
Steph is too injury prone, in my opinion. He's out for an extended amount of time every season, but he always seems to come back at the right time. If you've noticed that,
comes back for the playoffs, and then they score 140.
He's probably going to sit out. Again. He's got another ankle problem.
No, it's not ankle. Actually, this is his groin, which is a new problem. So the ankle is still up in the air because he hasn't hurt it yet, which is just another thing waiting to happen.
He's got a growing issue now.
Right.
I don't know, but going back to the original thing, to answer your question, Tyson, we saw it in Minnesota. Jimmy Butler was tearing that locker room in half. Now, is Golden State Minnesota? Absolutely not, because they still got KD, they still got Clay, and even Steph when he's out on the floor. Gavin, I know you hate him, but he's going to give you 30.
I think hate's a strong word. How about just dislike?
Okay, whatever. Same thing. And I don't know. I feel like you look at Denver and Utah, man. Look at nobody in the East, but look at Denver and Utah. Look at Toronto. They could actually. This is the season that the Golden State Warriors will get dethroned.
You think?
Could
so?
be. Could be. I still don't think they will. I think I need a couple of the dominoes to fall in place before I make that call.
Those dominoes are coming, in my opinion. They'll be there.
I think it's all going to come together when DeMarcus Cousins comes back and seeing how he controls himself.
I just think it'll still be hilarious if DeMarcus Cousins still doesn't get to the playoffs in a Warriors jersey. That'd be so funny to me.
Well, they're going to make the playoffs.
I get that. But what if they get bounced in the first round or something weird like that? That'd be unreal.
Dude's a curse. He just can't win.
It's about like Marshall in the NFL.
Oh, jeez.
Speaking of which, he just went to the Saints. We didn't talk about that, but
yeah,
he's the Saints now.
Yeah, congratulations to Brandon Marshall's on a winning that.
Maybe Drew Brees can break the Marshall curse.
The poor man's Des Bryant.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's the thing is Des Bryant's still under contract with the Saints.
And Sean Payton wants him back next season.
Yeah, and then on top of that, they signed Brandon Marshall, so it looks like 2 guys will be getting a ring this season. But
since
that's
you
just
guys
my take.
talked about football, bounce back real quick again.
Sure.
Le'Veon Bell did not show up this week.
So he can't play.
He can't play this season.
He cannot play this season. Officially, as of he didn't report by
4:00
Tuesday today at 4 Eastern. So 3:00 here Central Time, our time
in America.
He did not report. He is out for the season. He has surrendered his $14.5 million franchise tender.
And I think the New York Jets are making a strong push to acquire him next season.
I've heard that.
That would be interesting.
I've heard the Colts
The Colts as well, and the Houston Texans.
And the Texans. Those are the 3 teams I've heard. The Colts.
I bet he would love to go to the Texans.
What I've seen is that the Colts have the most money available and cash flow ready at hand, though.
Which honestly,
they're
though,
not paying anybody but Andrew Luck.
Well, see, that's the thing is, and a fun fact: his offensive line hasn't let up a sack in the last 4 weeks. Fun fact.
Andrew Luck's?
Yeah. The Colts are looking.
That's something because Andrew Luck is the most hit quarterback in the last 4 years, besides Aaron Rodgers.
I was listening to somebody on ESPN this morning saying that Andrew Luck has completely changed it the way he's played the last 3 weeks. Is that he's actually sliding, he's actually running out of bounds, and he's actually staying in the pocket.
You know what's helped? His running game became existent again. They're not getting 25 carries and 17 yards a game anymore. He's had a running back in Mack that can actually carry the ball 15 times and get him 100 yards.
Which, could you imagine the duo of Bell and Mack with Andrew Luck in the backfield?
Mm-hmm. Andrew Luck's
that'd be scary, especially when T.Y. Hilton comes back.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's going to be a scary offense. And let me just say real quick, that rookie out of Notre Dame, Quentin Nelson, that I wish the Bears would have taken. Now listen, I love Roquan Smith more than anyone, and I think he's going to be a phenomenal player. But had we taken Quentin Nelson, man, I would love to have this guy on my team right now. I think he plays left guard out of Notre Dame.
He pulled, and who was that he absolutely trucked?
I mean, he made him look like a small child.
Yes.
Did you see Zito come out with his In the Trenches blog, and he Quentin Austin.
He didn't even spell his name.
He devoted this blog to Fat Boy, you're awesome, and then he did the dude's name wrong. I thought that was hilarious. But
shout out to Quentin Nelson, dude. That was awesome. I love to see big boys get some pancakes every now and then, and that wasn't just any pancake. He kept going.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
No, he put that dude in the dirt.
Real quick, like Bobby Boucher out there. That hit someone and keep going. That was awesome.
I tell you what, real quick, let's bounce back to basketball. No pun intended, but let's finish up with the Lakers, the Los Angeles Lakers. Cale, you wrote it in the show notes. This is something that they have not experienced all season long. The Lakers have a winning record. They're 7-6 now. What changed?
Magic Johnson lighting a fire under Luke Walton, threatening his job, saying you better win here, and then LeBron. Speaking of which, have you guys seen LeBron's hair?
No.
Man, that dude's stressed. Remember his bald spot last season, what it was like?
Yeah,
it's about 12 times worse.
Yeah.
Man, honestly, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I kind of feel for LeBron, man. He has to put this team on his back.
You can't feel sorry for him. He chose to go there.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that, but he has absolutely no help.
And he's the one that signed off on Michael Beasley, JaVale McGee, Lance Stevenson.
Yes,
he chose to keep Contavious Caldwell Pope.
The GM went out and got himself a Tyson Chandler, and I think that has been a major change.
Yeah, that's also
a
thing too.
We saw it two games ago. Tyson Chandler came out and got them a game-winning block,
which I still believe was goaltending after reviewing the footage. But
I think you're high on pot news. But
that's
the GM got himself a Tyson Chandler, and we're seeing the dividends that's paying already. They've won 2 games because of him.
He is, but that's the thing is, I think they needed another center to pair up with JaVale McGee.
Which has been phenomenal.
How did they go out and get the 2 oldest Shaqtin' a Fool dudes out in the league, and it's working for them?
JaVale ain't been on Shaqtin' a Fool yet this year. He's playing really well.
For a career.
Well, he's averaging 3 blocks a game.
Yeah.
But his help defense is incredible.
He's the highest block leader in the league right now.
Yeah.
The dude's 8 foot tall and he's 12 feet with his wingspan.
This is the one thing that concerns me, though, is even with Tyson Chandler in those 2 games, the Lakers are still in the bottom half of the association in defensive efficiency. It's not enough.
LeBron don't play defense either.
Well, it's better. He's still ranked 158th in defensive win shares instead of 365th that he was last year. But it's coming up, and I think that number may be off now because that's from this weekend. But I mean, he's better. But Tyson Chandler, I love Tyson Chandler. I love the intensity he brings. He's a great guy to have in the locker room. I just don't think it's going to be enough. I do not think it's going to be enough.
The only person that's going to have a job next year besides LeBron is going to be Kyle Kuzma. I'm still holding on that. I think everybody I don't think he's going to be there. I don't think Magic's going to keep him around. Have you seen how bad he's been playing this year?
I think he's been pretty good when he's on the floor with LeBron. But
take LeBron out.
Everybody's good on the floor with LeBron. Look at the Cavs.
The only person that's been consistent so far this season is Rondo. And LeBron, obviously.
Well,
I don't know how Rondo's turned into a traveler. He's always been that Mr. Consistency, especially on the assists.
Well, I think once you hit the 10-year vet status, you can go anywhere you want on a 1-year deal and make the most money. I mean,
Yeah.
Rondo was efficient with New Orleans. He was efficient in Chicago.
even Sacramento.
Boston.
He almost averaged a triple-double when he was in Sacramento in those 2 years. Let's not forget that. But, man, I don't know. Yeah, that's crazy.
The
Rajon
Lakers
Rondo.
have turned it around, though. They finally have a winning record.
They do.
They were what, 2-6, and now they're 7-6.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, that's a good stretch.
They
But
beat. Did they beat Denver in overtime? Was that who that was?
I know they beat
Sounds
Denver. I don't think it was in overtime, though. I know you're right. You're right. It wasn't overtime. Yeah.
Because LeBron took over.
Well, he took over, and he also missed the game-winning free throw and then had to get his own layup, but that's besides the point.
They probably just padding the stat line a little bit.
No, I'm sure he is. I think he came out and said it a few days ago. I suck at free throws. But, I mean, that's nothing new. He's been shooting like 68%, 70% for the past
Still
3
better
years
than
now.
three-quarters of the league.
Well, I wouldn't say that
Quarter.
many. Maybe half. But I tell you what, that's a story for a different day.
it's
Oh,
my back.
Oh, and Tyson's popping his back over here. Anything else to add, gentlemen?
Line-out basketball.
Let's go ahead and talk about that.
Unless you got anything else you want to talk about in the NBA.
No, I think that's it.
All right.
Go
I think
Bulls.
we're good. Let's go ahead and move on.
Go Bulls. Go
I'm now a
Pacers.
fan of the Sixer Bulls.
Okay. So, line-out basketball, boys. We beat the Evansville Purple Aces, which we should have, 99-69.
And you attended.
I was there. I will be there tonight when we play the Georgetown Hoyas. The thing is I saw a lot of controversy after this game on Twitter, Illini Inquirer, that they said they should have scored that 101. No, they shouldn't have scored that 101th point. Just let that rest. Underwood did the right thing by making Tyler Underwood, coincidentally, his son, dribble the ball out at the last 10 seconds of the game. I'm in full agreement with that. So going off of that, I want to talk about some key players in this game that are going to be key going on. The whole starting five, honestly. Kipper, 13-2-2. Georgie Bashonshvili is actually how the correct pronunciation is. Man, I get tongue-tied on that. 7-10-2. So I want to talk about that real quick. 7-10-2. So he had 10 boards, 2 blocks, 7 points. One thing is
And 2 assists.
And 2 assists. He did not miss a defensive coverage all night. And he was efficient coming off of ball screens and coming through ball screens on the defensive end. So you have a guy that can power through ball screens on the defensive end and then set them on the other side, along with getting 10 boards, 7 points, 2 assists, and then 2 blocks. I understand we weren't playing that much competition. I get that in Evansville. But still, Georgie B, if he can continue that through the Big Ten regular season, that's going to be huge. He's going to be a big factor for tonight. So Georgie B is going to be one of the keys.
Well, that was the guy that none of us really thought would be that big of a factor coming into the season at all.
Right, we didn't think he would even see much playing time, but they gave him that starting spot, and he's proving that he's earning it.
Samba Kane had violated team rules somehow, so that's why he did not get any playing time against Evansville, and I don't think he's actually going to see any tonight against Georgetown either, which is fine with me. Georgie's impressing me a lot. Other than he's got 2 technicals in 2 games, I don't really necessarily like that too much.
I don't like it, but I tell you what,
He's got the fan favorite, though. You got to
Yeah.
hear that State Farm Center erupt when he gets the ball and he's announced. But moving on, Ayo Dosunmu. Man, this guy had a night. Have yourself a night, Ayo. 18, 4, and 3. Those 18 points, he was 2 for 3 from the 3-point line. He had this move where he put this dude on skates. I think it was KJ Riley from Evansville. Crossed him over and took it straight to the house for an and one. Ayo's looking good. He finally woke up. He had a decent night against Illinois Wesleyan, but it was his first game in the State Farm Center with actually a fan attendance there. He showed out game 1, actually, of the regular season against Evansville, and he's going to have to keep doing that. One thing, too, Trent Frazier, 10-7-1. This was the first game where he actually looked like a stable floor general where he did not have 28 points. So, yes, he wasn't scoring near as much, but he was finding the open man. He was getting back on D on fast breaks. He wasn't letting anybody have open shots. He was covering 2 or 3 guys at once. So he actually looked like a floor general, a true point guard. But, at the same time, we have a true point guard, a true floor general that can score 30 points night in, night out whenever he wants. Moving on, Aaron Jordan. Man, 19-0-7.
This is my man that you criticized before the season started, Cale, so I'd like to see what you have to say.
Aaron Jordan he was just shooting the lights out from the three-point line. I think he hit 3.
5 of 8.
5 of 8 from the three-point line.
I think that's what I looked at.
Yeah, that's right.
Block too. In the second half, I think it was 15 minutes left in the second. I lost my mind when he blocked that shot because, man, you could hear it just absolutely throughout the entire Assembly Hall, State Farm Center. No, Aaron Jordan, Gavin, remarkable. He's improved a lot. I criticized him pretty hard. I was a bigger fan of DeMonte Williams. I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm a bigger Aaron Jordan fan.
I do have one criticism. He got 0 assists, but then again, why do you need to pass the ball when you can shoot 5 of 8 from 3-point line?
And he also had 7 rebounds, so it's not like he didn't contribute.
It wasn't from that 0 assist. He passed the ball a lot. It's just that he was passing when he was in trouble, so they were drawing up plays so he could shoot the corner 3.
Mm-hmm.
But Evansville finally figured out what was going on, so they were bringing 2 or 3 guys to that corner, which was then allowing him to kick to Io, who ended up kicking to Georgie or Trent. So that's why he didn't end up having any assists. So he was still passing the ball, but he did have 7 boards.
Well, and DeMonte Williams was still 4 or 5 off the bench with 8 points. I still think that's pretty good. But
which I feel like Aaron Jordan's going to start, and DeMonte needs to come off of the bench.
And I think Jordan should start. But I have a little bit of a bias because I've been watching the guy for a couple of years.
He did start.
He started.
Yeah.
So he should continue to.
Yeah, absolutely.
It needs to be him, Kipper, Georgie, Io, and
I think Andres Feliz plays a phenomenal 6-man too.
That's where he needs to stay.
That's why I like Aaron Jordan starting because I think Feliz plays better off the bench.
16, 3, and 3 off of the bench. This is the guy that I am most excited to watch this season. I used to be a big Trent fan. I was more excited to watch Io coming in, but now that I've seen Andres Feliz, how we snagged this guy, how he plays is phenomenal. Coming off of the bench is his spot, his niche. That's where he needs to stay, and he's willing to come off the bench. Not only is he going to come off the bench, he's going to come off the bench and give you 16 points.
Well, it's like you said, he's from JUCO, so he knows. He knows exactly what he needs to do.
Yep.
He's already played for a couple years, so he knows his role more than anyone else on this team, I think. And like you said, he should fit in seamlessly.
The 2 guys that know their role, Trent Frazier, Andres Feliz. Trent's the leader. He's the captain. He deserves that. It's his team. Andres comes off of the bench when Frazier needs a break. You ain't got to worry about it because Feliz is going to score and he's going to pass the ball.
That's a great 1-2 punch.
It is.
Yeah.
I thought the Io Frazier 1-2 punch was going to be amazing. No, this is the best one they've got. But yeah, moving off of that, Andres Feliz is going to be a guy to watch. He's going to be exciting. Samba Kane, I get it. He's the big man. He's not going to see much playing time, I don't think, this season. Because once De La Rosa gets 100%, it's going to be him and Georgie. But tonight's starters, I want to go over that, are going to be Trent Frazier, Io, Aaron Jordan, Kipper Nichols, and Georgie B.
Which is exactly who we said should be in the starting 5
Those
right
are going
now.
to be your starting 5 all season.
Right. Can I touch on one thing real quick? Can I just say we shot 43% from 3 on 28 attempts as a team.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty impressive. That's really impressive.
Brad Underwood said in his press conference after the game on Friday, I believe it was what it was, Friday morning, saying that they are going to shoot a lot of threes, so be expected for it. And not only are they going to shoot a lot of threes, they're going to hit a lot of threes too. I mean, Georgie's even out there contributing.
He went 1 for 1 from
line.
the 3-point line. Yep.
Against Illinois Wesleyan, he was 2 for 3.
Mm-hmm.
So Georgie's going to be able to get out there and give you some threes. That's going to be That's going to be hard to defend, especially since Georgie can run the floor a lot better than what I thought he could.
Well, and let's not like brush past that like it's nothing either. I mean, when you take 28 attempts from 3 and you shoot 71 shots, that's roughly 39-40% of your attempts coming from behind the arc.
Right.
That's like three-pointers the NBA teams shoot percentage-wise.
Yep.
So, I mean, I guess if that's what it's coming to, I mean, why not, right? The college line's closer than the professional line, so if you can jack them up, jack them up.
I will say this, everybody at the start of the athletic season, for both teams, football and basketball, has kind of put more faith in basketball than they did football, and it's going to show why. I said this at the beginning of the football season, I know, but I was kind of doubtful. Illinois basketball this season is going to win some big games, especially with Feliz. That guy is going to win his big games single-handedly. And Frazier's obviously going to do what Trent Frazier does. Io's going to perform. I'm kind of really excited to see how Io's going to do in big pressure situation at home and on the road in Big Ten play. Does that, you know what I mean on that? Io's really going to have to prove himself then. I'll be more excited. But tonight, if he can drop 18-3-3 again tonight, I'm sold.
Would you be over or under on 21.5 wins after what you've seen?
I would be under on 21 wins. Actually, you know what? I'm going to say 21 wins. This is definitely a 20-win team. I'm going to say, leave it at that. This is a 20-win team, no less. We're going to steal some games we shouldn't. We're going to lose some games we shouldn't lose. That's just how basketball works. The only team that's not going to lose any games this season is going to be Duke. Duke's going to go 77,000-0.
Yeah, Zion Williamson and R.J. Barrett. That is one of the scariest ones.
Who is
the other guy?
Cam Reddish.
Cam Reddish.
Those three. That's the scariest.
Which
trio
is hard to
I've
say
seen in a
because
while.
Cam Reddish, all three of those guys were like the top 3 ranked guys. To forget this guy that was in the top 3 because these other 2 are so good, that's insane. But yeah, Zion Williamson.
There's only one basketball.
Yeah,
True. But hey, I tell you what.
hang on.
Oh, go ahead.
Duke this season, the only thing they need on the floor anytime, they'll take the delay of game penalty, the technical. Just put them 3 on the floor. See what happens. 3 on 5. That's all they'll need still.
I think I might enjoy watching that.
it's the only team. It's the only way another team has a chance.
Well,
And I still don't know if they do. But.
Well, and I still think that Duke will. I don't know what it is. They always seem to lose 1 or 2, no matter how good their team is. And I'm just curious who they're going to lose to this season.
North Carolina
or Florida State.
Possibly.
They play Florida State, I think.
Every other year. Did they play them last year?
I don't think so. I think they play Florida State. If they play Florida State, they're decent. They're a lot better than what they normally are. Yeah. I'll say that. They were good last year, though. They've made a tournament push. What, they Sweet 16 run? I think
Florida State made it to the Sweet 16 and lost.
And got bounced in the Sweet 16.
By Xavier. Yeah.
So they made it to the Sweet 16 last year. It was the first time they've done that in a long time. So that might be the only team on that half of the country. This half of the country, Zaga is the only team I see in giving them any competition. I don't think Michigan State can. I don't think Michigan can.
That's going to be interesting. We'll see.
The tournament's going to be interesting.
We'll see. Yeah. Well, and
how
it'll be.
How funny would it be if they got beat by UMBC or whoever that was at Virginia?
I want to see them make it back in.
I do too.
I don't even care if they're. I don't even. Well, Nevada, they'll make it for sure.
Make it for sure.
But no,
they're 7th.
UMBC, I think if they can make it as anything higher than a 16 seed, I think they've earned it. I mean, you take it on a 1 seed, give them another invitation, give them a higher seed, give them a chance.
Nevada's 7th overall, but they're like 3rd in the power rankings.
It's do or die because their coach ain't going to be there after this season.
What do you think? Final 4 appearance or?
It's Final 4, maybe even national championship or done.
Wow.
Which is going to be tough going against Duke.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I'll tell you what.
Kentucky's 10th this season.
Yeah, right now.
I don't see them going much higher.
I think they'll still be a top 10 team. I
think they'll go higher. I don't think they'll beat anyone ranked in the top 5.
No.
This isn't Kentucky basketball that we've grown up with.
Well, and I don't think that we should overreact right now. I say give it a couple weeks.
Cal was satisfied with his team, too, and they came out and got smacked by Duke.
Yeah, well.
Did you see him sitting on the bench?
Sad.
Dude, he was sad.
I'm a sad panda.
I'll tell you what, we'll leave it at that. If you liked what you heard, make sure to leave us a like, rating, comment in the box below. Also, don't forget to hit that red subscribe button down there and hit the bell icon next to it so you never miss a beat. Also, don't forget to follow us at Twitter, and our Twitter handle would be sports_twin, if I'm not mistaken. I always seem to forget that. But yeah, don't forget to follow us on there. We usually post every so often, I think.
Yeah, I do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well there we go. Cale's on top of that.
Twitterless Gavin.
Yeah, whoops. Yeah, I don't believe in tweeter. What is that? Anyway, yeah, we hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if you did, stick around for more. My name's Gavin Campbell. That was Tyson Snyder, Cale Fleming. We'll see you guys next time.
Peace.
There's a thing we like to do every time there's trouble based upon the view.